Hello class. Module 9 is all about e-commerce, and it's actually hard to think of a business these days that's not affected by e-commerce, that if they're not directly participating in it, their bank or some other supporting services. So it's pretty much here to stay. It's an important aspect of all business going forward. The text talks about the different modes of e-commerce. One, of course, is business to consumer. And so if you think of Amazon, that's a business to consumer type of service. I mean, they have some business to business services as well, but we think of going on and being able to buy things, books and DVDs and so forth, directly. That's business to consumer. There's business to business, and one example that you've been using for this class actually are the library databases that these publishers like EBSCO sell us license agreements to access their materials, and we're an organization, so it's a kind of a business to business setup. You have consumer to consumer, and so eBay is the best example of that. You find some old junk in your attic, you want to sell it, you go on eBay, people make bids, you sell it to another consumer. Business to employee is a little more difficult for people to understand if you're not involved in some of the HR functions of a business. Basically, if you work for a bigger type of organization, they will have training modules available to you online. They will also have benefits, not just options for you to look at, but details about your benefits. You can access your packages. You can decide where your retirement money is being allocated into which funds and so forth. And so that's an example of business to employee. Also, you have e-government as an example. And so if you pay taxes at all, you may have already tried paying your taxes through an e-service. So I use the state of Connecticut's e-service. You go on, you file quickly, you pay directly from your bank account. That's e-government. Also, the final component is mobile commerce. And I like to use the example of Square. If you've heard of Square, it's a little white square that plugs into your phone, and you can accept credit card payments from other individuals. So if you go to fairs of any sort, a lot of times you'll see the vendors just have a cell phone and a Square, one of the competitors' devices there, and they can swipe your info and through the app collect money from you. So those are the different components. Now, obviously, e-commerce is all about moving money around, and when you're talking about money and access to accounts, especially bank accounts, retirement accounts, we always have to be worried about security. We talked about security a lot in the past, and so of course this is the key point for MIS systems, is protecting the money. And so you'll see the text addresses that quite a bit. I would like to point out to you there's a pretty fantastic description of the process of using your credit card to buy something online. So pay special attention to that part in the chapter. It walks you through the different steps, how the payment is authorized and who it goes through and all that kind of stuff. When I used to travel for business every week, you would get scammed sometimes, that they would use your card, they would swipe it in a special device, either at a restaurant or a bar, or someone working at a hotel would sell your information, and you would see fraudulent charges pop up. And if you have the right kind of credit card, you can just call them up and say, hey, there's some fraudulent charges. Please eliminate these, and they investigate. The scary part is most of the time they don't process anyone because the amounts are so small, it's not even worth their time and effort and money to follow up on. So that's something to consider when you're looking at that process. Most cards now are moving towards the smart card direction. The text talks a lot about smart cards and the idea that you have a mag strip. So I've worked at universities where there's a magnetic strip on the back of your ID card. Within that strip, there's multiple layers to it, and you can program what goes where. So we had a layer for food services, and a layer for something else, and a layer like maybe the bookstore, and then a layer for the library, and it kept a bunch of data on there, and we had to have special mag strip readers to access that information and make changes. And so now what you'll see with credit cards, if you're paying attention to any of these retail locations, like I was just at Macy's this weekend, and they're switching to the chip reader that if you have credit cards, most of the companies or banks will be sending out new cards with special chips in them that are more secure than just reading the mag strip on the back of the card. And so now instead of swiping your card on their point of sale device, you actually insert it into the bottom and it'll read the chip. And so that's an example of how smart cards are being used going forward. And the last thing that I want to point out from the chapter is the idea of showrooming, where you will go to a physical store, a physical location, look at the items, and then go online and find someplace that's selling it cheaper and have it shipped out to you. And that's been a major issue for retailers, big box stores, figuring out how do we keep the doors open if everybody is just using us to look at the goods and handle them and then go online and buy them. So Best Buy is one of those companies that really struggles with that. They try to have as much multi-channel options as possible. So the chapter talks about channel conflict, in which your online sales are pulling away from your on ground. And a lot of these stores will try to say, hey, buy it online, but pick it up at the store so you can see it, or order it at the store and we'll have it shipped to your house and that kind of stuff. So e-commerce is really interesting, really important going forward, and enjoy reading and learning about this. Let me know if you have any questions.